Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of my RC4 drive Trailfinder 2 build. In this one I'm going to be tackling all the body, so I'm going to be assembling the body and painting the body. Now I haven't put all the hardware on, I haven't put the mirrors and the lights and the lenses and that sort of stuff on yet. That's going to be for part 3 because this part's already long enough, I think, and it gives you a good idea of what the truck is actually going to look like. So there's tons of painting and tons of weathering going into this one. And thank you for watching part 1. I see quite a few views in there and I'm very stoked to see a bit of good positive reaction to the first part. So hopefully we can start and actually get stuck in a little bit harder on this. So I enjoyed this a lot. Not quite the process I thought, but it's an interesting one anyway. So without further ado, we'll get stuck in and start building the body. With the body of the Hilux now built, didn't really take that long. I sort of messed around. I did a lot of sanding to certain joints, so particularly on the front here, on this front corner, these parts weren't really matching up that well, so I sort of sanded them a bit more flush. I've also used a few of the screws, so here and here, to help brace, as well as I put a couple in here that had a couple of bolts on them just to keep the spacing right. Now, after I did that, I was tinkering around, and I should have filmed it, but I didn't. I was tinkering on my mounting solution because I don't want to just use the screws like a lot of guys say, you know, it's not really worth it. So what I've done, you can see down here, I've got two little silver things, and these are magnets. So these magnets are placed in the areas where the screw tops would usually sit. They sit in there quite nicely. I believe these are 4 mil by 1 mil magnets. And then on the inside, I have, on the opposite sides of the holes, 2 little metal washers. These are more providing as guides for what's on the chassis. So if I move this to one side here and just go and grab the chassis, which is over here, bring it round. I've also put a set of wheels on, but we can talk about those another time. On the braces, what I've done is taken 2 grub screws. These are the screws that were for the front and rear bumpers to help mount them onto the chassis braces. And I've put them in about, so there's about 4 mil, 5 mil proud of the mount. That way, these metal pieces are attracted by the magnets which help hold, but are also clamped by the shape of the body shell clamping over the top, as well as the washers, which are going to help reduce the amount of wear and tear on the plastic part, but also help to hook onto the threads on the grub screws. This holds really well. I've been able to throw the truck around a fair bit while doing that, and they've held up rather nicely. So even if certain parts of this wear and tear a little bit, hopefully the magnets are going to still help to hold our body on. I still haven't done anything on the rear yet. I want to work on the back bed mounting solution later on. So the tires, the wheels and tires I have here are Duratrack Showdowns. Nice sort of, I think they're roughly the correct size for a class 1 tire. I'm not too sure. I haven't really looked into Sorka rules and stuff like that yet, but you know, they look good with the body on. I like the wheels which I got off AliExpress. They're not that expensive, but I like that sort of military style that we have going on with them. Gives a good bit of weight because the wheels are solid. They're die-cast metal, so they're quite heavy. Now, we'll move that to the side. The next steps for the body, I want to fill in these holes. I'm going to change this screw out for a lower profile, probably a countersunk or something like that. Then I'm going to be taking some green stuff putty, which is a 2-part epoxy putty, but say that 10 times, and fill in these details and smooth them off. Get that panel line continuing across underneath the door. And then after that, we're going to be moving on to prepping the body for paint. And we're going to be washing the body down in some warm soapy water and using this. This is a Brillo pad. If you don't know what a Brillo pad is, it's basically a kind of a hard soap impregnated into a block of wire wool. And I'm using this because I want to get rid of the sheen and the glossiness off the plastic to help my primer coat key to the plastic. After that, let's sort all that out first, and then I can come back and I can talk about what I want to do painting wise, or probably just talk about it as we do it. But for the meantime, we're going to fill in all the little holes that we don't want to be there anymore. We want to get rid of those details, and then we can move on. Now we have the body shell washed, primed and ready for painting. As you can see, I also painted the inside black. It's not really that big of a deal. I'm just going to keep it that way. Makes it nice and tidy. So what I'm planning to do here is paint this body as if it's already rusted up and completely decayed. Then after that, I want to try the hairspray technique, which if you're a scale modeler, you'll know what that is. What we'll do is give the entire body a coat of hairspray. After that, I'll then spray on a top coat. I'm thinking of going with a blue, because it's the only color I don't really have in my collection at the minute, is something blue. And after that's dry, what we then do is take a brush with a little bit of water in it, so a damp brush, and then we start to dab and brush at edges and anywhere we want some rust to come through. What that does is the water will seep into the hairspray, reactivate it, and lift off the top color, or the top coat of paint. In this case, that'll be our blue, and that'll reveal the rusty texture and the rusty paint job underneath. Now, my concerns with this is that when this truck is out on the trail and it gets wet, is it just going to reactivate all of it and pull it away? How well am I going to have to seal it down? I guess we're going to find out. But if it does a little bit of a progressive weathering over time when it gets wet and muddy, I don't really see that as a terrible thing, and we can always go back over it again later on down the line. So the colors we're going to be using are some Vallejo colors. So we have Panzer's Dark Rust. That's going to be the base coat. Then we're going to be spraying a varied pattern of Cavalry Brown, which is a nice reddy rusty color. And then some Vallejo Light Rust, which is a bit more orange. And then to top it all off, I have a little bit of Light Rust Wash, which will sit into some panel lines and sort of settle into areas that I want it to be and make it look a little bit more natural. So we're going to get on with that. I'm going to give the body a wipe down with a damp cloth, let that dry just to get some of the paint dust clean and away. Then we're going to get down and start airbrushing. So as you can see, we are now ready to start distressing our paint. I quite like this shade of turquoise, not gonna lie, reminds me of my school uniform, but it's a nice shade of turquoise. I thought it would just be a little different than just a straight blue or something like that. Now, so the hairspray is down, this blue is over on top of the hairspray. So what we need to do is take our brush, not make it completely soaked, but wet, and what we then should be able to do in theory is to drag it along places we want to have our rust coming through. So see, starting to appear just a little bit there along that edge. See if I can show you a little bit closer. And we can make that chipping as large or as small as we want. And it'll overall give us quite an interesting effect the more we do. So, let's do a little bit more with our damp brush. We can scrape it away like that. Now we can really start to show off the layers underneath. Now I'm going to try it with a sponge as well. I'm not sure if a sponge is going to work. I've never tried it with a sponge before. I've only been trying it on smaller miniatures. So let's zoom in a little bit here, and we'll see if we can get somewhere interesting under camera. Probably stay on the hood, to be honest. And let's see. What we can do, see if the sponge is going to work. It is going to work. Have to be fairly firm with it, which is fine. So this is going to take a fair amount of work, but what we're going to get in the end, I think, is going to be a lot more interesting once we have this step done, and then we can move on to some other weathering. So we'll carry on over the whole truck, see what we have so far, and see if we can replicate that across the whole vehicle. With our chipping and wearing step all done on the paintwork, we now have a few other little bits of brush work to do. So we have the front grille to paint. That's going to be black and silver, especially inside the light buckets. They're going to have to go silver. There's a few other bits like window seals and stuff like that need to go black, or an off black, a very dark grey probably. So this step is just going to be going around the truck, figuring out what colour certain things need to be. And then I think as well I'm going to go in with a little bit of silver and start to really wear in some of these areas, bring some of the areas of high wear into bare metal as well, just to add a little bit more to it. Then after that, I think we're going to have a bit of an enamel wash as well, just to dust and dirt up a little bit more, because now we've got paint chipped but it's not overly dirty looking. We need to make it more dirty. So we'll do that and see what we end up with afterwards. So this is where we're going to stop for now. what I'll do in part 3 is I'll take all the light lenses and that sort of stuff, all the extra hardware that goes on the outside and potentially on the inside as well, and get them all sorted, get the lenses colored, get them placed as well. I do have a light kit coming. I do have an interior ready to go in. I'm just waiting for my driver figure to turn up as well. And I also have a right-hand drive dashboard for it as well, because I'm in the UK, I wanted it to be a right-hand drive vehicle. So yeah, we'll see what happens in part 3, but hopefully you've enjoyed this part and enjoyed seeing how the color scheme and the weathering has come together. There'll be a bit more of that probably in part 3, because once all the exterior stuff's on, I want to sort of blend it in a little bit. We won't be using the same process. We'll be using different materials and stuff like that. Maybe another enamel wash of a different color, just to blend it all in a little bit more. Maybe going with a little bit of rust streaking as well, because that's the only thing I feel the body's lacking at the minute, is a bit more of that smaller detail. We've covered the broad brush strokes of the body, so hopefully in part 3 we'll get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope I haven't kept you too long and you've enjoyed it. And until next time, take care, stay safe, and see you again very soon.